Good afternoon, everyone. We're just waiting here until noon o'clock to get started. So I'm going to go back on mute and then we'll get started promptly at noon. Thanks everyone for joining the SWACO audit tool presentation, part of our recycling toolkit. It is now noon, so we're going to go ahead and get started promptly. Got a lot of slides to cover here. This is kind of the quick dive into it. If you want to learn more or spend more time on this content, please feel free to reach out. My contact information will come here shortly. So a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. Everyone is on mute. You cannot unmute yourself. If you do have a question, please use the question button on the side, and we will get to as many as we can at the end. And if we run out of time, we will follow up with you to make sure your question is answered. This meeting is being recorded, and you will get a follow-up email after this is over with the recording. And there also is a handout of this recording that can be downloaded off to the side. You can see those two buttons here. The question mark button can be used, and I have Sheila Davis here, my coworker, who will help me get to those questions at the end. And you can go ahead and download that handout proactively if you'd like, over to the side there, that little paper button. My name is Sean Collins. I'm the Assistant Business Program Administrator here at SWACO. We work in the business diversion space, so anything from commercial to multifamily. We are spending time with any business that wants our help to divert materials from the landfill and help extend the life of the landfill. Please feel free to reach out anytime with any of your burning recycling questions, or if you've had a project that you need some help with. Anything and everything is on the table for us to assist with. So quickly before we begin, we always like to talk about what SWACO is if you're not familiar. So back in 1989, a law was passed that said there had to be solid waste districts. There are now 52 of them that govern all counties in Ohio. Some have multiple counties. We are a single county solid waste district, and our jurisdiction is Franklin County. We work to divert materials from a landfill and extend the life of the landfill. Specifically, we are in the business sector, but we have programming in all areas of diversion. So please reach out at any time if you have any questions on recycling or diversion in general. This is our jurisdictional map. This lets people know kind of where we're able to operate. You'll notice we do have some small areas outside the county as well as some areas inside the county that we don't have jurisdiction over. It is the area in which most of your population resides. So you can see the New Albany and Dublin areas, Westerville, that slightly come outside the county that we do still have jurisdictional coverage over. So that would still apply to us. If you're not in Franklin County, that's totally okay. There's a waste district for you. Please reach out and we would love to connect you with your waste district, as they would have resources to support you. And we all work together. We all want to see our landfills taken care of and make sure it's everything's disposed of correctly and safely. So why we're here is trying to support recycling programs. This is our most recent waste characterization study with a new one coming up here in 2025. So very excited to see what we've been able to accomplish. And what we can see here just briefly is that we have lots of material that's in our landfill that really doesn't need to be and could have another life or continue to be in use. And so our programming really works to try to continue to drive that diversion rate up and make sure that only things that belong in the landfill actually are in the landfill. So the commercial sector is a huge part of that waste stream. This is the sector that I tend to work in, that 60% sector. We have great programming in the residential space. But in our space, in the commercial sector, as well as HOAs and multifamily, the rules get a little blurry and things get a little harder, and you actually need a lot more thought when it comes to putting together a recycling program, as well as it's a cost to a business. So today's material is going to hopefully help you build programs that support that diversion of that 60%. And hopefully, as we continue to do these waste characterization studies, we are going to see that rate continue to go down. So what we know about recycling here in Franklin County is after we did a survey in 2022, 1,300 residents were asked, some basic questions about recycling. 78% believe businesses should be recycling, and I think that that's a huge number for us to realize that residents want to see it and are encouraged when they see it, and they see it as a good thing. Which is a huge driving factor for why a business should recycle and should consider this content. And if they're not engaging with a recycling or some sort of diversion programming at this time, we would love to help them. We're a free resource, and we can help them do as simple as a basic recycling program like you would at home to harder, more specific materials. So we would love to support, and our hope is that this survey kind of shows you that your business could potentially even see growth simply because of a recycling program that you implement. In Ohio, recycling is big business. 80% of what is recycled here in Ohio is kept in the state of Ohio, and over 370 businesses now do make revenue off different recycling streams here in Franklin County. So recycling is real, it's alive and well. If you ask yourself the question, what's happening with my recycling? We can confidently tell you here at SWACO, we have wonderful, wonderful businesses here in Franklin County and all of Ohio that are using those recycled goods to make new materials and employ lots and lots of people here in Ohio as well. So to kind of frame the reason for this new audit tool is that our Business Recycling Champions program, the business incentive program that we have set up now, is going to offer free indoor containers for businesses. There is a limit to that, but for the most part, we'll capture pretty much any business in Franklin County. And we're also going to help support signage. So if you already have containers, maybe that work great, but aren't being used quite properly, we do that for free as well. And then lastly, we're going to offer service reimbursement. So based on the amount of service you receive and the size of container you receive, we're going to offer reimbursement to you for starting a recycling program. We want to help encourage people to start new recycling programs to increase that diversion of material. Like we said, we know it has a market. We know people want it on the back end. So we want to help as many businesses as possible stand that up. And this new audit tool specifically came out of this program. We saw a need for businesses who wanted to start these programs to have a simple to use tool where they're going to help capture what is actually happening in their business, but at a higher level. Not everybody is a complete waste nerd like we might be, and that's totally okay. You don't need to be, and that's the whole point of our new tool. So this Champions program, this is one specific reason for this new tool, as well as this tool is one item in the program that can be completed to get you one step closer to getting those free indoor containers, free signage, and service startup support. So if you're interested, feel free to go to our website up at the diversion tab up top, and then you'll see the Business Recycling Champions program. It's a real simple, you can see off to the side here, real simple form you can fill out, and we would love to support any diversion that you wanted to do. And one of the things that you're going to end up seeing is that we have to do this new audit tool. So this is step 2, which can sometimes be step 1 of our kind of business toolkit program as well. So this can be used outside of the Business Recycling Champions program. And this is understanding, what's in your waste stream. What do you need to recycle, or what could you recycle that you're maybe not doing currently? We do have a in-depth comprehensive waste audit tool that still exists on our website that's not going to be replaced by this new audit tool. And that audit tool is really for those teams that might have a really intense green team who wants to go above and beyond. Maybe they have a sustainability consultant that's going to do some extra work for them, or ESG or sustainability team that has devoted time, energy, and effort, and really maybe actually wants to dig through trash and get deep in the weeds with this. We still have that tool. It has great insights. It's very useful. But what we have found over our time in the practicing space is that that's not for everybody. You might be a small facility with only a couple employees. Most of your employees could be remote. And you don't really need that big of an audit tool. You don't need to dig through your trash, to be quite honest, to just start what is a basic recycling and diversion program. So this audit tool is still going to exist on our page. Please feel free to use it. It's a great tool, but it can be a little daunting if you are a new user to the recycling space, or you're doing this on your own time maybe, or on borrowed time. You're a volunteer on your GREET team, you only get a couple hours a month to do the work that you want to get done. This tool can look really scary to those folks, and we totally understand that, and that was the driving force behind creating this new audit tool. So without further ado, our new audit tool. It's pretty straightforward, as you can see, and that was the goal. There's 3 groups of people that could be completing this. If you reached out to us via the website and you wanted to engage with SWACO, we come out and do this audit tool for you, nice and easy. We'll come out and walk the space with you, and we'll capture just some basic things. What waste streams we're seeing, if there's already waste stream diversion happening, so let's say you're a big manufacturing facility doing something with cardboard. Well, that cardboard creates a lot of scrap, and most places are already going to be doing that because it's easy to monetize. So you probably already have a nice cardboard program going on in that facility. But you're probably missing some other stuff. Are you doing something with, life cycled electronics? Is there furniture that is in your office space that needs a home? And ideally isn't going to be the landfill. And then, people in any space, in any break room, are going to create waste. And maybe that's the space that we haven't really thought about, because that's that you can't monetize the same way maybe a post-industrial cardboard scrap you could. So this is meant for us to help walk through and identify what is currently happening. And then we'll kind of site assess each area. And so you can see that as we go down, we have a location, and then some places that's really easy. If you think of like a school, it's classroom 211 or classroom 212. In a business facility, a lot of time the spaces are clearly named. But if you have to be more general, that's fine as well. In every business, people kind of maybe have normal nomenclature. It's the executive break room versus the staff break room. Whatever is most general and understandable. We want this to be used during container rollout. So as long as we're using terminology that is identifiable by the staff helping roll the program out, that's completely okay. The waste stream, we're just trying to look at what's generated in that area. For example, if it's next to a copier, it really might only be paper. If it's in your break room, then certainly you're going to have some food waste. So we want to identify what areas, what waste streams are being captured in what areas, and then understand what container size might be needed. This can be general, biggest possible. If you need to be as general as needed, you don't really have a good sense of what a 55-gallon container is, that's totally okay as well. We just want to understand, like, is this a desk side where someone's creating small amounts of waste, or is this a break room with the whole company going through it and we absolutely need the biggest container possible? Signage, so we do provide that free signage, as well as on recycleright.org. We have our free signage tool to make those landfill recycling and composting signs. We will print those and help deploy those for free, and they come with our containers as well, following best practices. If you need a new bin in the area, we have that area as well. So sometimes we find that somebody already has a nice paper bin and a nice trash bin next to a copier because it's very obvious, and they're maybe taking the paper home, let's say, before our program begins. That's fine. We probably don't need a new container there. That container is working well as it is, and maybe we wouldn't add a new container there. But if we do identify there's absolutely waste being created that needs to be diverted with our new recycling program that we're going to help roll out, then we'd select or write in yes, and then we would know that that space is in need of one of our new free bins. Then the bin ordered category, we'll get to that in a second, how you can understand maybe what bins are available. But just to try to denote what bin we might have ordered for that space or decided, and that's where we can help. If we're out at the site, we know what bins we have in our program. And it's pretty straightforward for us to help identify which one makes the most sense for your space. And then we have a notes area. Is it correctly sized for a space? Is what's happening in there make sense? I was in a space recently where they still had 3 very large bins and they were all overflowing, and everybody said, man, these get emptied 4 times a day and they still seem to be overflowing because it's a super high volume area. That's good to know, because overflowing recycling containers aren't going to be used. People are going to choose the trash container if they're overflowing. So we have to have a right sized container for the space. Up top, there's a few other areas that can be noted because we are not the only ones that can fill this out. The other people who can fill this out is maybe your waste hauler. If they're looking to engage with you, that's great. We have participating haulers in this program who are aware this program exists, and we'd love to help them roll out recycling to your facility. So your waste hauler could be helping you complete this because they know what a space may or may not need. And that's where that completed by could be filled out. So that could be your waste hauler's name there. And lastly, let's say you feel real confident about this, or you feel like it's pretty straightforward. You have a really good idea of what you know your space needs. You don't want to have to worry about scheduling a time with me to come out and meet with you and walk the space, or maybe it's only one little space and there's not really anything to discuss. We just need a container or two. You could be the one to fill this out as well if you're on your green team or so desire. And we would love to be able to just have that, sent back to us, and then we can kind of consult on it, maybe ask a few clarifying questions. And then, this is already checked off in our process and we're good to go. And you wouldn't really need to do anything further from the visual waste audit perspective. That's an option as well. So those three great options. If there's any trepidation or you have any questions at all, of course, we always would love to come out and walk your space with you, and are always happy to do that. And again, we're free of charge, so nothing to lose to help us support the program. And since we know, since we're the ones who created it, obviously we are well versed in filling it out. There is a page 2 to this because we understand large complexes likely could have more meeting spaces than what would fit on that first page, and that totally makes sense. So this page 2 of the document is exactly what you saw on the first page, and the idea would be you just print as many as this page 2 as needed after you fill out page 1 to fill in your spaces, and then that would create your full document. This is one of the documents needed to participate in our Business Recycling Champions program. And so it is a requirement, if you're going to engage with our program, that you do have to fill this out in some way, shape, or form. So we just need something to show that you did walk your space and that you understand clearly what is being generated and what needs to be diverted. So this is that kind of perfect tool to get that done. And again, we have that deeper dive tool if you really want to go into it. That's great, nothing against that. But this is for maybe a little higher level. If you're just doing a basic recycling program with the normal materials that any resident would be able to recycle, you don't need to dig through your trash. That's absolutely not necessary. And so that's the entire point of this tool. To walk through then the bin ordered section, we're going to take one kind of sidebar here. We do have our own landing page with Bush Systems. They are one of our approved vendors here. They do a great job, certified B Corp, and their containers do follow best practices, which is what's very important to us. As you can see in the picture, one of those being twinning the bin, having two bins next to each other with clear labeling and coloring. So you can go to this webpage and you're going to see it's branded to match our Business Recycling Champions program. And when you click Order Now, it'll take you to a page full of products. So this is just one example of some of the products you're going to see there. As you go through here, you'll see bin naming. So what we have in this space is some of our most popular bins. And one thing to note with this program, again, is that we do have the ability to do immediate deployment. So we are stocking these. So if you reached out, we could be done in a week and bring these directly to your business, find the correct places after doing that waste audit tool that we just showed, and then come right back with the bins the following week. So that would be the desk side units, the 7-gallon recycling containers. We find those are great for office spaces or areas that create smaller amounts of waste, and those waste watcher series as well. The waste watchers are great because they're slim, they fit in tight spaces, and they do capture more material than I think most people realize. And then we also have composting solutions within there as well. And then we have those Evolve series stocked on hand. So a really great way, but any of these are totally okay and already approved through us because they follow best practices. So these are what you'd be writing in that column where you're trying to see maybe which container you wanted to order for the space. A big motivating factor in the way we created that document is that we wanted to both be the visual audit tool for when we walk through your space. So we understand what waste streams are being generated and what we can do with those waste streams. And you don't have to include compost, even if we do notate that there's that kind of waste that organic matter being created. That's totally okay if you're not ready to take that step yet, because you do have to have the hauler to be able to take it. But we want you to have that opportunity to fill in, hey, what makes sense here? And then as we go through that, when we come back out to deploy the bins, then we know very clearly, yeah, we identified last time, or maybe you have somebody else walking us through the building, helping put those bins in. It can be our list then, as we go back through the space, to identify where the bins go. Yeah, we all agreed the desk side unit was here. Or, oh yeah, your VP really doesn't want people in his office, so he wants a desk side unit because he's going to empty it himself. Or, in this space, we want a waste watcher because we're going to have everybody bring their waste to the waste watcher instead of having desk side, which is something we asked them as we walked through the building, and the staff was there. So that's really the intent of this, and I hope that you find that as useful as well. We do have additional resources. If you have questions about recycling or how to use any of these things you've seen today, our recycleright.org has a search tool for seeing what is recyclable and where if you have questions. That is also where that signage tool is located. We do have public drop boxes for anyone who maybe doesn't have recycling in their space currently, and you can find that at our locations map. We have the Save More Than Food website. It's a food waste tool for supporting food waste diversion. So you can see haulers in our area, as well as some best practices for keeping food in your home, as well as proper composting. SWACO has resources in our webinar series. So we do these for both communities and businesses, as well as individual homeowners. So we have many webinars that can be followed there. You can see a virtual landfill tour there, as well as our website has in-person public landfill tours. I would definitely encourage you to go on one if you're considering any sort of waste diversion. And we have business resources as well on that business tab that I showed earlier. And if you're ever confused, biz@swaco.org comes to both business team members here at SWACO. And that's a great opportunity to anytime engage with us. If you have any questions, we'd be happy to help. Again, biz@swaco.org. So now that we've come to the end of this, I'm going to pass it over here and see if we have any questions. Sheila, do we have any questions?
Hi, Sean. We have one question. What if my company has hired a sustainability consultant to do the audit? Am I allowed to use them for this project?
Yeah, that's a great question, definitely. And we see large organizations and smaller organizations now getting more engaged with environmental social governance, ESG, and hiring those type of consultants, as well as having full-time staff members who might be doing it themselves. Absolutely. We only require that to be part of the Business Recycling Champions program itself. If that's why you're engaging with this tool, we simply need a waste audit done. So if you do want someone to be doing, that digging through your trash and really you want exact percentages of everything you have, that's totally fine. That would absolutely fulfill the requirement. And so we would just ask them to submit whatever their chosen use is. Usually it's an Excel document, something like that. That's totally fine. As long as we have something that proves that you have looked through the space, walked through the space, and taken account for what waste streams you might be generating, that's really all we're looking for there, because we want to make sure we right size our containers and we have the right containers for those spaces. So if it's a big packing area, for example, you might only create cardboard, and that's fine, but one of those slimmer, smaller containers simply isn't going to work for that space. We would want a larger container that allows you to take it out. We also have to consider what your hauler does and doesn't take, and that's a huge part of this program as well, as we know what all the haulers, how they like the material, and what rules they have around the material. So absolutely is the answer. Sustainability consultants or those folks all have their favorite tools to use, or probably have maybe tools they've created, and as long as they're willing to submit the fact that they did that, that is totally acceptable, and you still would be part of the program. Any other questions?
Yep, one more. It says, the question is, how long does it take to complete an audit if I'm using this tool? And I'm thinking about, I think what the question is really asking is, from start to finish, how long should it take to do an audit?
Yeah, so it does depend on your space. We've seen, small businesses with a few cubicles do it, and of course that's a pretty quick meeting. It's pretty straightforward. We've also seen, 10-story buildings do it, and certainly that's going to take some more time to walk through and understand the spaces and the needs of each floor. So what I would say is, it does depend, and it also depends on how much material you might be creating and how creative it is. If it's a warehouse space, certainly you're going to have your offices, and that could be a straightforward recycling program. And then you're going to have your your warehouse space that might need some recycling, but you might have to be more creative about how it happens. You have forklifts going by, you have areas where you simply can't have loose containers sitting, you definitely can't have overflow. Then you additionally have a break room, you might have a office break room, and then you have your warehouse break room. So it really does depend on the space and what kind of business you have. But overall, the intent of the tool, as you saw it, was to not have to dig through trash, to be it's a visual audit tool, to be able to really just walk by and in maybe a couple, 10, 20, 30 seconds, glance over into the space, glance around, do kind of a quick 360, see what might be generated in the space, or do a quick peek into the trash can that's already there, and then understand what waste streams are there. It's for the most part, exactly what you would expect. You're going to see paper, you're going to see cardboard, cans, bottles, etc. And that's all we're looking to identify there. We're not looking for anything crazy, which is why we call it the visual audit tool. We're just asking you to take a quick peek around, make sure you know what's happening in that space, and then we can right size and best pick the container for the space. And again, we would deploy that for free for your business, which is a huge perk of this program, is this free indoor containers. So it looks like that's all the questions we had for today. So I appreciate everyone joining us. Again, you will get this follow-up email that has this in it. And again, please reach out to us and stay connected at SWACO.org, Facebook and Instagram at SWACO Green, and then biz@swaco.com again goes to both myself or my coworker Sheila Davis. We both work in the business programming space. We'd love to help you divert any material or answer just any questions that you might have. With that, we appreciate you having a great day and divert some material.